Writers write best what they know. So the recurring theme in my storytelling is the black music of America, the soundtrack of America. And one way or the other, it's always going to seep its way into what I create.
Hello, and welcome to Keyboard. I'm your host, Tembi or Thembi. I answer to both. My guest today is actor, writer, composer, director, and educator Lee Summers. Lee made his Broadway debut in the original production of Dreamgirls, and from there, he never stopped creating. We talk about how his work amplifies and celebrates key figures and various genres of Black music, what it means to make work that's actor-proof, why Black artists don't have the luxury of being apolitical, and how intellectual property can become generational legacy. Stay right here for my conversation with Lee Summers on Keyboard. Welcome, Lee Summers. How are you?
I am well. It's a pleasure to be here, Tembi.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you on the show. So let's just jump in, okay?
All righty.
All right. So you have had an expansive, dynamic career. You've done so much, produced, acted, written, you're an educator, so many things. I want to know, is there a time early on when you realized that your artistic life was just too big to fit into one lane and you just knew you had to experience a variety of storytelling modalities?
That's a great question. It basically has just been the journey. There was not this one particular moment. However, I did have a mentor when I first moved to New York City. His name was Richard Douglas. I met him at my very first audition when I was auditioning for a Moss musical theater and playing George Washington Carver in an off Broadway show. And he was the stage manager, and he said he was going to take me under his wing, and he did so. But he noticed that whenever I was in between jobs, that I might, wait for the industry to come knocking at my door. And he was the one that said to me, Lee, you have to create your own whirlwind. You have a lot of different talents and you should use them. So I started to write. There's a whole different avenue when I start talking about the writing path that I've been on that has to do with being on Broadway in a show that I noticed was actor proof. And I wanted to learn how to write a show like that one. And so I ended up really, really studying writing. But there's not been one particular time where I was like, you gotta diversify. It was like these voices, if you will, and genres and ways of expression have always just been innate to me. And my philosophy has always been plant many trees and you'll always have fruit.
I love that. Plant many trees and you'll always have fruit. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So, okay, well, did you ever experience any internal tension when you started to explore all these different ways of storytelling? Were there ever any points where, like, for instance, somebody would introduce you to someone else as one thing and you just felt like, oh, okay, I'm not really that just yet, still learning. Have you ever had any of those moments?
Yeah, I have them all the time because people like to put you in boxes. And so, for instance, Wikipedia. I mean, I've always identified more as an actor and performer and educator and writer. However, as of recent, the Wikipedia has decided that I'm an acting teacher first. And not that bothers me, but it's like, oh, okay, I see. It's this what it is. So yeah, and sometimes that's a great question that you're asking because people do decide what you are. But the older you get, the more you're like, okay, whatever. At least I'm here. I'm here, and I have, and I'm present, and I've done some things, and I feel good about my path. And so, however you want to introduce me, I'm cool with it.
I like that. Your name is in the conversation. That's good enough.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Okay, can we talk about actor proof? I want to make sure I understand what you mean by that. I think I know what it means.
Okay. So you know that I was in the original production of Dreamgirls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a lot of fun in my 20s. And I was there while all the original characters, rather actors that Shirley Ralph was there and Ben Harney was there. Jennifer Holliday had just left when I joined the company. However, during that 3 years that I was there, people would quit or people would get fired. And I noticed that the standing ovations never stopped. And that fascinated me. And I was like, this show is built so well that it just never, no matter who's playing these parts, it doesn't matter that the show will always win. And so I used to go sit down in the orchestra pit and just listen to the orchestrations and obviously looking, my part in the show wasn't that big. So I was the MC of the Apollo and I was Mr. Morgan, her lawyer. And I wasn't one of the featured dancers. I did do some dancing in the show. So I had some time every 8 shows a week to just sort of study the bones of the show. And that's why I went back to school to get an MFA in graduate musical theater writing in order to know to know more than what my critics would know as a writer. And so when I say actor proof, it is a show that can withstand the changing of actors.
I love that. And a lot of really talented people, some more like socially famous than others, right? Mm-hmm. We know how that works, but doesn't have to do with how talented people are a lot of times. And thinking about how even with that level of talent, that show still, no matter what the changes were, would stand the test of time. So that makes sense. I'm understanding how you saw, okay, how can I apply that to my own writing and make my work that strong?
Yeah. I mean, and that was before I even knew that it would eventually become a feature film and that it would be revived so many times. I had no idea. I just knew that it was working no matter who did it while I was there back in the early 80s.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's interesting that for my listeners, some of you know and some of you don't know that I'm based in Buffalo, and we just had a production here of Dreamgirls that was a collaboration with a Black woman-led production company called Ansari Saxon, and with Karen Saxon, Naila Ansari, who actually are both guests on the pod in the past, mm-hmm. who produced this incredible show along with Shay's Performing Arts Center, and it really was incredible. And it was with a number of all these great young people that had come up in the Buffalo area, a couple of people mm-hmm. from New York, but mainly Buffalo folks. And they were so talented, and the ladies did such a good job on the work. But you're right in that the piece just did so well. The piece really stood up. It didn't feel like, oh, this is a local production of a show. It was top notch. And it takes a lot to get that kind of show together. So I want to ask you then, did you crack the code on that once you thought about making a show actor proof? Were you able to find that in your own work, or at least in your creative process?
All right. And well, before I speak to that, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that even though the show was written by the composer Henry Krieger and the librettist Tom Ian, and of course Michael Bennett and Michael Peters, the contribution of the original core cast is just immeasurable. And you've probably heard people talk about how much they gave to that. So yes, it was actor proof, but it was built on Black bodies.
Yes, that's fair. That's fair. I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
With the contribution of the Black bodies. Not just mm-hmm. they weren't just the bodies; they were the voices. They were as equally created and not compensated for it. Not for the long haul. Not like say a Chorus Line and some other shows that were able to compensate the original core company for quite some time. And even Hamilton, due to a lawsuit, they were able to compensate their original company. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there.
You can't. I don't know. You kind of took me. I promise I won't go down this rabbit hole. But that's interesting. That I didn't know that. I didn't know that they weren't compensated as the original cast
They got
members.
some. They mm-hmm. got some. Some got some. Some didn't get some. But it wasn't like a blanket thing. And but the contributions are timeless, which is I just always like to acknowledge that.
Yes, absolutely.
So you asked me, did I crack the code of actor proof?
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough that, in some ways I did. I utilized that formula, not necessarily the Dreamgirls formula, but the formula of writing characters that could be played by, let's just say, if you have we write a role for a triple threat, a young Black male who can either sing tenor, baritone, or bass baritone. and they can sing classic soul from the 60s and 70s, and they've got some vocabulary of gospel riffs in their song, in their voices, no matter how legit they sing. My off-Broadway show from my hometown kind of cracked that code, because it's been, I think we've had about 15 productions, and now it's signed to Broadway, rather to Concord Theatricals, being licensed stock and amateur for the next 18 years in the U.S. and Canada. So in that regard, that show sort of cracked the code in terms of being marketable and castable, and some really cool people have performed it. Todrick Hall, if you know who that is, he was in a production of it, and Rodney Hicks from the original Broadway cast of Rent, and just different young men of color. It's provided a lot of work. So in that regard, I feel that show cracked a little bit of the code of being actor proof. And my Ella Fitzgerald show, that's kind of tricky, because I was so fortunate to have Frida Band of Gold Payne. If you
I like it. Yes. Frida.
Yeah. Not everybody can step into the feet or the shoes of Ella Fitzgerald. So that one's been tricky, just trying to, and as she grows older, it's going to be challenging to find someone to step into those shoes, but they're out there.
I like when you talked about From My Hometown being available, because when I was researching and I saw that, I thought, well, that would be a great show to do in Buffalo. It's just interesting as an artist that you continue to move forward, but you have material that easily could be, continue in other areas of the country, of the world, and things that kind of go on. And so we talked about the fact that you made your Broadway debut in this historic production of Dreamgirls, right? Mm-hmm. And that you've been working ever since in the field and having tons of success. And so I'm curious, that early opportunity, I'm curious how that influenced your current success, and just thinking about how you're able to create work that permeates the field, even like, I don't want to, I just have this analogy in my head of like passive income, like when you own real estate and you've got, it's being rented out over here in Montana, like you can continue creating something else, right?
Yeah, it's definitely intellectual property. And that will outlive me. And I'm not sure, I've kind of forgotten the actual question.
No, it's okay.
I got caught up on my intellectual property. I'm like, thank God.
Right. How about that? No, the question is essentially just, through this career, when you had that early incredible moment with Dreamgirls, I'm curious what you learned from that helped you be able to sustain yourself in this way, that you're still here doing this incredible work and you've got all these great opportunities. Or was there anything?
It's just been a journey, and you just follow your journey. I mean, I tell my students that whenever it's relevant, that I was fortunate enough to, be here for the 80s. And of course, I lived through the AIDS crisis, and I was here for 9/11, and I was here for the crack epidemic, and I was here for obviously COVID. And through all of those different life events, there was always the struggle of being a creative person living in the most expensive city in the world, figuring out that, okay, singing, dancing maybe is not paying me. I'll go sing at the improvisation between the comedians. Oh, wow, I got discovered by somebody. Now I'm going to go to the French Lick, Indiana, and I'm going to build my one-man show for 2 years down there. And different jobs. A friend asked me to, I'm temping at a place, and a friend says, leave this job and come over. I've got a little room called La Place. I'm going to call it La Place at 57th Street, a little tiny stage that Billie Holiday used to sing on when her license was revoked. And I went over to him and joined him trying to create this little nightclub. And we couldn't get all the artists we wanted, so I heard some guys singing on my street corner, and I thought, what's their story? And that's how that gave birth to From My Hometown. So I've just been on my journey, and whenever the opportunity would present itself, I guess I have this little radar that says, oh, here's something that my voice might be right for, be it either as a writer or as an actor. And I literally wrote From My Hometown for myself as an actor. I called in 2 other friends, and the 3 of us created it, and I knew that I could write the story. And I said to them, if you will do this with me, because I have no money to produce this, but I got a little stage, and I'm going to call my other buddy to be the director, and my good girlfriend, play wife, she's going to be the choreographer, and the three of us are going to we're going to be the performers, and we've got a piano player. And if we do this, I will split this with you guys, and I will write it, and you'll get writing credit, and there are two other guys, you'll get co-writing credit. And to this day, those are the 7 people that are still making money from it from 20 years ago. So I've just shown up. It wasn't like looking back, you can always say, well, this seems strategic, but more it was surviving in a crazy industry that is not your friend. I always tell young people, if you look at my resume and you think that it's that I got a lot on there, it's like, no, those are the 30 yeses out of 30,000 or more no's.
That's a really good point, because the no's don't go on our resumes, right?
Nope. Right.
So like, if you could show that real comparison of like, here's how many times I tried to get something done and it didn't happen, versus, okay, this is what I was actually able to follow through with.
Absolutely.
It's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's a really good point. Thank you. So you spoke about how now you've created this opportunity, and from our hometown, for so many other people to continue to benefit, right? Mm-hmm. You've created artistic opportunities for other people and yourself like that throughout your whole career. So I'm wondering how you would describe the threads that have found their way through your work as far as themes. What kind of themes have you discovered that have emerged? Or, was it purposeful? Was it?
Well, yeah. Well, as you know, as one who's a director and who develops works and so forth, writers write best what they know. And so coming from Nashville, Tennessee, attending Tennessee State University and studying voice at Fisk University and singing at Opryland and all of that. By the time I moved to New York, I was well equipped with classic soul. Memphis, Tennessee, Stax Records being a few miles away from my hometown. I came equipped with classic soul, not so much the big Broadway sound. Dreamgirls wasn't the big Broadway sound. So the recurring theme, I would say, in my storytelling is the Black music of America, the soundtrack of America. And one way or the other, it's always going to seep its way into what I create. From my hometown is clearly that. It's 24 classic soul songs that we've licensed for 18 years. I've got a funk musical. You may have in your research. It's called The Funk and Teen Rapture, and it is pure funk from the 70s. It's an homage to Bootsy and Sly Stone, and so that's yet another the American soundtrack, or in that case, somewhat of a subgenre. Ella, a Black female, the greatest singer ever. And then I've got another musical called The System, where I explore living in New York City under Giuliani's reign, if you will, when the whole broken windows thing was happening, and they were just picking up people, profiling people like crazy. And it's a really tragic story about, again, 3 singers who are singing at the Motown Cafe. And they go to the park and smoke a joint, get arrested, and this from that one little being picked up for that, one ends up on death row. Spoiler alert. And it's just sort of a little snapshot of how once you get sucked into the system, what can potentially happen. But again, it's that male group singing, that recurring theme that they seemingly always seeps its way into my work. I'll just say this. Most recently, I'm in a playwrights group when we write plays and present them to one another. And so it was my turn. I think this was February of 2025 this year. And I had this situation where every time that I would be like in school and someone would bring up the AIDS crisis, for that mentor that I mentioned earlier when we first started chatting, I lost him in 1994 from the AIDS crisis.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And I also lost a play cousin, and I also lost one of my mentor friends who had taken me to Fisk University when I was like 18 to study with his voice teacher. So in my mind, I had lost my 3 pips. If I were Gladys Knight, I lost all 3 of them. So I wrote a piece, again, that same recurring theme called Pips. And it's my story of coming to closure with the spirits that I lost during the AIDS crisis. So to your question, that's the recurring theme through many of my works.
How beautiful, honoring their memory through your work and just finding them in this on this plane, right? Even though they're not with us on this plane to keep their energy alive. That's really beautiful.
It
Wow.
was good. It was cathartic. It was cathartic for me because I needed to put them somewhere. When your lovely daughter, Nadia, was my student, there were times where people because of course I assigned scenes. It's an acting for singing class. And sometimes people would bring in works by Tony Kushner, say Angels in America, or good grief, the title that is escaping me right now from the other writer that wrote anyway.
The Laramie Project.
Well,
I'm trying to think.
Things like that.
Oh no, that wasn't.
Yeah. Well, that was a hate crime. Yeah.
That's right. That was a hate crime. I was trying to think of what. Yeah. Rant.
But it'll come. No, it'll come to me. But at any rate, I would often have to explain to the students because they're like, well, they sort of take it lightly. They weren't there, and so whenever I'd find myself explaining to them what it was like back then, I would get all emotional and I'd well up and things like that. And so I realized that I had some closure that I hadn't gained. And so by writing that piece, Pips, it gave me that closure. It honored them, but it also gave me closure. And it also, when we did it, I was like, it became like a therapy session. People just started testifying about the people that they had lost and that they had forgotten about and that what it was like. And it was just a really, really powerful moment that was somewhat universal, but particularly for people in the industry of color that had come out to support that first reading.
Wow. It seems like sometimes people forget that these stories come out of real events and real loss and real feelings and, and real societal circumstances. It's just like, it's not just like a fun, we're just going to tell the story and I'm going to make sure I capture this character. It's like this character is based on a person. So it's really, that's a beautiful way to ground it for students.
Yeah, well, off before we started recording, I mentioned that having Nadia in class, that she had introduced me to a book called Black Acting Methods. And I use it. It's been 5 years since she was in my class, and I still have that book on my syllabus. And each year I have the students to read chapters from it. And this year particularly, I spent a couple of days. I would love to have spent a semester just teaching that, but I spent a couple of days. And one of the things that it always pinpoints is that being Black and writing is, we don't have the privilege to not be political in our writing. There is always something that we have to address.
Yep.
So so if the work went to your point, the works generally have some mission, some action, something that they're trying to address in our society, because we just don't have the privilege to not have it.
Mm-hmm.
Even
so true.
Go ahead. I'm running my mouth.
No, go ahead. That is what we are here for. This is why we are in the function. Please, I'm not going to stop you. Okay. So I was just saying that the funk musical that I mentioned, the Funk and Teen Rapture. I'll say it again because that's the one that's like on the top of the that I'm like trying to serve up now. If you are familiar with the name James Monroe Iglehart. He won the Tony. He did Aladdin. Was he in Aladdin?
He won the Tony as the genie. He won the Tony for that. He's my friend, and he just was nominated for Louis Armstrong on Broadway, and so so in 2005 I won this grant and some other things with the show The Funk and Teen Rapture, and they took me to Palo Alto, and when I arrived there was a cast waiting for me, and so the unknown young James Monroe Iglehart was in that cast playing the villain of my musical. And so fast forward, say, from 2005 to around 2012, after he won, maybe 2013, after he'd won the Tony, we did this event at Carnegie Hall, and he said to me, Lee Summers, I got a Tony now. Let's do Funkin' Teen. And so now he wants to make his Broadway debut directing the Funkin' Teen Rapture. So I'm really excited about that.
That's incredible.
So
So he wants to direct it?
He wants to direct it, yeah. And he's going to direct it. He's really, really quite brilliant. And we're having a really good time. And we've had a 29-hour reading earlier in the year. We're gathering producers now. And it's going to be Broadway's first really true funk musical. And people seem to really like it.
Okay, so it sounds like then though that you are also helping people see an expansion of their opportunity and sort of expansion of their storytelling approaches, right? Just giving folks opportunities in different aspects of the work as well.
Well, as you said earlier, when you have different ways of expression, as you asked me earlier, it's not that way. I plan it that way. It's like if I'm wearing the hat of the writer and the composer and the lyricist, I need collaborators. And when they come and they're talented, like James is, and my other collaborator, Lon Hoyt, who was the musical director for Hairspray. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh yes, I'm giving opportunities. No, I'm just blessed to have brilliant collaborators that want to work with me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to sell you short, but I hear what you're saying. I mean, the fact of the matter is, okay. I love it. Okay. Well, all right. So now I'd like to ask you about just again, well, before I ask, I just have to say, I'm very intrigued by your deep interest in genre. That's just interesting to me. A lot of times people seem to find other touch points like Black men, Black women, or it might be certain experiences, might be focused on LGBTQI plus communities, like anything, right? But you're like soul, funk, and just like a love affair with Black music, which, as we know, is the backbone of America, of American culture and of world culture, because everybody across the planet pulls and imitates and inhabits. So just
steals and borrows and appropriates.
Come on, talk about it. Look, with permission, what's that? And that's not Black. We made this up, right? Yep. So, but just speaking to that, thinking about the deep reverence you have for those things and what you understand clearly, which is that this is the foundation of an entire culture, that there's a power and a strength in this, in these forms that have not been explored enough and aren't understood as well as they should be. And I don't know if gatekeeping is necessary, because like you said, it's stolen and, and pillaged. When you don't gatekeep, that happens, right? But water seeks its level. It has to exist. It has to shine. So it's just interesting. It's a whole.
Well, it's us. It's Africa. It's all the way from the motherland, and it's what we brought with us, and it's what they couldn't take away from us, and what we shaped and formed and invented, and that endures. And it just seems for me just natural to just swim in that water and educate people. People don't realize, and now there's a documentary that talks about Sly Stone, but a lot of people don't realize just that actually Parliament Funkadelic, they were influenced by Sly Stone and just various, and then of course he was influenced by other people, and the same thing with Ella and all of those various artists. It's just this big long highway of Black voices and Black contributions to music, and so it's really exciting to me to educate people and to celebrate what our culture, and to find a way that, going back to that actor proof comment or statement that I made, figuring out a way. It's almost like it's like if you're going to borrow from us, then let us at least bake the cake.
Hello.
Here's the cake. Go ahead, come and get your slice, enjoy it. But that Patti LaBelle made the pie.
Right, right. Don't try to say somebody else did it and it wasn't her. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's our responsibility as people of color to, whenever we can be the storytellers, whenever we could be the architects of our culture being celebrated. I think it's important that we step up to that opportunity.
Yeah. And that being said, though, do you ever find, I mean, in this field, we know that theater in America is primarily occupied by, produced by, created by white creators,
Hmm.
right? And prioritizes white stories that come out of a really narrow tradition in Europe. So and doesn't really cover the huge expanse of theatrical forms around the world. So that's you typically what we as Black practitioners in the United States will operate inside. So what I want to know is, do you ever find yourself translating Black culture for non-Black audiences in your work?
All the time.
Translating. Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. Because uh, theater, no matter how much you, no matter if you want to do commercial theater in America, you yes, you can do the Tyler Perry route. If you're trying to go mainstream, or even say if you're trying to do something on Broadway and you want it to survive more than 15 minutes, you have to make sure that you are communicating on a universal level. When I think back to A Raisin in the Sun, Lorraine Hansberry, even though that show was as through the blackest perspective, the story, black poor people living in a tenement, so forth, but some kind of way through all of that, she was able to shine through the American dream. And so white people, black people, all audience could go, oh, I understand what this is, because these are people trying to get the American dream. And you fast forward decades later and you look at Hamilton, where sometimes I may be criticized for this. My early joke was that Lin-Manuel had done the Jedi mind trick by putting black and brown bodies in for the founding fathers, and people were like, "Oh, wait a minute, that's us. No, that's them. No, that's us. Oh, no, that's them." So,
Right.
so it's to your point about, are there times where we have to figure out how to translate our culture to the masses, and so that's something we have to do if we want something to commercially succeed in on Broadway. At least allow it to be understood universally, as opposed to being so insular that it's just that, that maybe it's, but then again, there's a thin line to that too, because sometimes people just love to come and watch culture, unapologetic
That's
culture,
true.
just happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, just you have to throw it against the wall and see what sticks sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear that because I think as creators, there are often times where we get so excited and worked up about pieces, right? And we're just like, okay, well, I want to tell this story, this story, this story. And it's like, okay, well, we can't tell all the stories. Other
Hmm.
people can tell some of these stories. You can tell those. But yet, it's like accepting, like, this is where I tend to lean. This is what I tend to gravitate towards. And I'm just going to focus on that. So
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
that for you, you want to make sure that your pieces are commercially viable. And so
Hmm.
you do that translation as necessary, but it doesn't pull away from the heart of the work that you're doing, which I think
Right.
is a heck of a balance to strike.
Hmm.
So in your teaching, you spoke about Nadia, my
Hmm.
girl, introducing Black acting methods, and I just am so fascinated by you as an educator simply saying, "Oh, let me see what you got there. Oh, okay. Well, let me just introduce that." You just don't seem to have had any sense of like, well, this child doesn't know what she's talking about. You just
No.
took in what she had to say and then you
Yeah.
implemented it. That was really,
Of course, I read the book.
of
I,
course, of
I read
course.
the book first, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is it's written by a couple of PhDs. Who
Mm-hmm.
there's a gentleman there down in South. His name is Freddie Hendricks, and the people that have come out of his school include Kenan Thompson from Saturday Night Live, and Say Khan, who has done some Broadway shows, and just various people, Adelco Award winners, and so forth. And he practices these three tenets: spirituality, devising, and the hyperego, and which are universal. Like, because these kids, particularly starting to teach there at NYU straight out of the pandemic, kids really needed to to be built back up to some degree, particularly regardless of race. They just came in and they had been totally out of the whole socialization. They were behind. They've been
Yeah.
living behind in masks. So I found that third tenet, it always resonates with all the students. They are coming in and they're trying to find their way into careers as artists, and mostly they're singers because, as you know, it's a vocal music program. And in acting, they're only their bodies, not the score, not music, not violins, but just their bodies are the instrument in my class. And so I found Black acting methods a universal way to help to lift them up and to believe in themselves. Did you ask me a question? And I'm just riffing off.
No, that was I didn't. You were great. I was giving you just my feeling on how I thought that was impressive that you took information and then moved forward with it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
From a student.
From your daughter.
Which shows that you listen to your students. You don't it's not a one-way exchange.
Every year I learn from them constantly. It wasn't on my dance card to become a college professor. It wasn't that it just happened. I had stepped in for someone during the pandemic, a dear friend of mine, a collaborator who happened to pass away. And I came down there to finish a project. And when he passed away, then they asked me to write something in his honor. And I did. And I had like a cast of 24 students. And I did that. And I thought I was done. And then an opening came along and they asked me if I would like to come down and teach acting for singers. And I thought, I can do this. This would be something to do in terms of giving back and a little certainty. Because when I went to grad school, I noticed that my graduate degree is in the Graduate Musical Theater Writing Program at NYU Tisch, and all of the professors there are active writers. They're out there, like Kirsten Childs, who wrote The Bubbly Black Girl, and I can't think of his last name, Stephen. He just passed away, but he wrote A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder that ran on Broadway. And, of course, Winnie Holtzman, who wrote Wicked, is a graduate as well. And George C. Wolfe is a graduate as well. And I noticed that all these people, they were teaching and they were working, teaching and working. And I thought, okay, so maybe that could be my life too. I can teach on the university level and continue to be a working artist. And so when this opportunity came about, I was like, I think I have something to give these kids because I've been acting for 40 years and singing, so I can help them out. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so when you teach, though, when you look at Hendrix or you look at Uta Hagen or Meisner, when you're teaching, I'm curious if you teach as there's some practitioners who are like, Meisner says this, and when Meisner this, Meisner that, versus do you interpret a Meisner? Do you interpret Hendrix through your own lens? You have extensive experience. I wonder, do you allow your experiences and your expertise to kind of mix with that and then teach from that approach?
Absolutely. I find that when it's almost like cooking or recipes, Uta Hagen, she's got this great recipe for, I don't want to say dumbing down, but simplifying the compartmentalization of acting and emotions and sense memory and so forth. And a lot of the students come in and they might not even know stage left from stage right. I mean, it depends on what their experience has been. And my course is required by all of the students that are in that program. So I meet them all where they are. But the way that I approach it is here's a technique that you're going to learn, but it's going to come through my lens. And if you've studied this before, erase it, leave it at the door, because now you're here to learn it through my lens. And if you knew more, if you knew what I knew, I wouldn't say this. I don't say this, but if you knew what I knew, then you would not. How can I even word that? Basically, just leave your previous experiences at the door, and let's be open. And to your point about Nadia, and I will learn from you, and you will learn from me. Yeah.
I love that. That's such a you have such a generosity of spirit as an educator, and it makes sense why she loves you so much and admires you just as a person. In addition to being as an educator, that makes me feel good. I appreciate it. Yes. So, okay. Now, you've been fortunate to build a career in this work, and we all know, any of us who've been around for a while, we know that our bodies, our voices, our perspectives, over time, those things shift, right? Just the sort of natural progress of evolution. I'm curious what you've learned.
I just had a birthday
What?
2 days ago, so talk about
Oh,
some
you did?
evolution.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh!
I just
Happy
had some.
belated
Thank
birthday!
you. A little more evolution over here.
Okay,
Yes.
you were laughing. I was like, "Oh, that's a knowing laugh." That's how. I'm not going to ask how old you turned unless
Oh,
you.
it's public information. I can't hide it. It's
How
out there.
how old you turn?
Oh, I turned 67.
That's a lie. Why you out here
Okay,
lying?
I received that lie.
67?
I did, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense because the timing, right?
Because of Dreamgirls, yeah.
Yes,
I was in my 20s. Yeah.
if you hadn't done Dreamgirls, because I'm going to be transparent here, when I was talking to Nadia, and I was like, but I was trying to figure out, well, about how old is he? And she was like, I don't know. We couldn't figure, but I'm looking at, like, he looks like, so yeah, you look fantastic, and you just have you have such a buoyant spirit and such a beautiful energy. So happy birthday! But I know you earned every one of those 67 years. I would never try to take them away from you.
I'm claiming them and I celebrate them. Yes.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Happy birthday. So,
Thank you.
of course, of course. But so I'm curious, over this time and just in your life, right? How has your instrument, when you talk about your students bringing just the instruments of their bodies to class, when you think of the instrument of your body, what have you learned from it? What has changed about it over time that you've thought, like, oh, my voice has changed in this way, or my thinking has changed in this way, and so now I'm gonna begin to apply it to my work in this other way. Like, what are some of the things that you've
wow.
learned?
Well, yeah, you're right. There's gravity happening all the time, and things are, when we get older. I've learned that some of the, just feeling fortunate that when I was in my 20s, because I had a dream to perform on Broadway, it was non-negotiable that I learned how to dance in order to get in Dreamgirls, right? So I had several years of just dancing as a young person so that I could dance on Broadway. And so that muscle memory has sustained me in terms of personal discipline and how to maintain the body. My best friend also danced in 5 Broadway shows, and we're constantly just making sure that, oh, look at you. What is that? What's going on with you? Because we're trying to keep it together. As you know, Jip, we don't say it anymore, but trigger warning words that we used to say that were okay, we can't say anymore. But it begins with the G, and it has to do with people that roamed around that could tell your fortune. Yes, we used to call ourselves those. And it was a badge of honor, to be someone who's a moving sort of person who moves about and works when they can. But that also was synonymous with taking care of your instrument and making sure that you stayed a certain way. So yes, the voice is lower than it used to be. Actually, my voice is higher now because I stopped drinking during the pandemic, and now I'm vegan. And so actually my instrument feels better. I'm about to start taking some lessons with one of my fellow faculty members. They have this little development fund that you can apply for. So I got a few coins, and I'm going to give them to my fellow Black professor at NYU, and his name is Jamin Maple. He's incredible. Google him. He sings. My God, he sings like an angel, and they call him Magic Maple in terms of his vocal. So
wow,
I say all that to say that I try to maintain my body. I try to maintain my instrument. You ask me, and as an actor, going off of what we were talking about, how we learn from our students, I think having taught Meisner technique for the past 5 years and this Uta Hagen that we talked about and the Black acting actors, I think that I have become a much better actor than I started. And I'm looking forward to this summer doing more acting, particularly on TV and film, which I've done a bit of. And because I feel that I'm better equipped. So, we just keep getting better. They say use it or lose it. So I try to use it, whatever that is, as much as I can. A lot of hats. I wear a lot of hats, you know.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear you talk about something that is so important. And I've learned that not everybody realizes this, and I think it's good for them to hear it come from you, who's had so many accomplishments, and that you never stop learning, you never stop taking those classes, you never stop discovering new ways to condition yourself and to care for yourself, because it's an ongoing process. So it's not like you know what you need to know and you just keep showing up, you learn your lines, or you read the script and you direct the show. You're still always in that learning process, which I really love.
Yeah, there's too much information out there now too, because the people that came before me, they didn't know what cigarettes were going to do to them. They didn't know that alcoholism was going to happen. They didn't, even the generation of the people that I lost, that I told you I wrote about earlier, they didn't know that just after the 70s lovemaking, free love 70s, that what was going to potentially happen to them. So now we got too much information to not act upon the information that we get. So I try to use my brain about maintaining. And, you got your loved ones you want to take care of. I have an 87-year-old mom who there are 4 siblings in my family, and we all do our best to give her the best care possible. So I want to be around to make sure that she's okay. I don't have any kids, but, I got some godsons and so forth, and a bunch of nieces and nephews. And so just want to be around, and, and this intellectual property, when I'm gone, it'll be theirs. And, we just do the best we can in this little moment we have in these bodies.
That's beautiful. And you have tons of students who care for you as well. I'll just mention that.
That's what a gift that has been. That has really been a gift. I was laughing this week because theater games is one way that we make people just relax in an acting class. Silly games, and this one particular game, when people are out, when they mess up and they're out, I started singing this, like when Nadia was in class, I'd sing, somebody's out, somebody's out. And so that has become this little chant that all of my students know for years now. They know the somebody's out song. And I said the other day, I said, oh, yeah, somebody's going to be at my funeral one day and they're going to go, oh, somebody's out.
You'll be smiling from on high, like, oh, they remember.
Yeah, and I'll be out.
Truly out, right?
Truly yes.
out. Yeah. I love it. You're probably gonna have somebody see you walking down, 42nd one day and start just singing it to you.
Yeah.
I love that.
They remember stuff like that. But I love my students. I really, really do. They're great, good people, talented people. The industry, the future of the industry. And I bring my buddies to come down and speak to my students. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the name Norm Lewis.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Norm came down this semester in the fall and around October, and spoke with the students. And my friend Tony Award winner Adrienne Lennox came in. She won the Tony for Doubt, so she came down and she spoke to the students. So yeah, it's a fun time.
Oh, I know they were over the moon for that. The theater kids love it.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. So speaking of students, what kinds of questions are they asking you these days? You talk about coming out of COVID. You talk about the differences in students coming out of COVID and before, and the adjustments you have to make and the scaffolding you have to do for them. So what kinds of questions are they asking?
Wow, interesting. What kinds of questions are they asking? They are always curious about what it's actually like out in the real world. And the industry is forever changing. We spoke a moment ago about forever always learning. When I do have free time, like in the summers, and I try to sort of get my foot back in the waters of the industry, that's always a learning period for me. For instance, I know now the value of these students putting their work on tape. Yeah. Which used to not really matter, but now when they spend, say, 3 weeks on a scene, they need to capture it and put it on their reels or put it somewhere. What are they asking me? That's an interesting question, because their questions are usually framed in what I'm teaching at a given time. For instance, they may ask me, well, how do I prepare before I go on stage? And I use through my own lens, I use a combination of sometimes Meisner and things that I've learned from Meisner technique, things I've learned from Uta Hagen technique, things I've learned from friends, things I've learned along the way. But and I have little recipes that I share with them about how you can prepare before you go on stage. Um,
So,
the entire everything about, as you know, the entire process of creating another human being and living completely truthfully under imaginary circumstances is the gambit of the questions I am asked on a regular basis, because that's what they're there to learn.
and you mentioned the real world. You talked about them asking you questions about what's it like in the real world. Do you find that your students are in a mind frame of when I get just enough schooling or just enough whatever, then I can go into the real world? Do you find that your students are don't feel like they're in the real world yet?
Well, they know that they have to dedicate, if they're my undergraduate students have to dedicate those 4 years to earn that degree, and my graduate students have to dedicate the 2 years in order to earn their degree. So they are, I have to say, locked in, just as I was when I was getting the advanced degree. You have to just pause your life. And so when they ask what's it like in the real world, yes, many of them, as soon as they graduate, they want to start making their rounds. Questions like, is it better to be a union actor or a non-union actor? How can I get an agent? Things like that. And sometimes if I cannot help everybody, but every now and then and I can't use up all my contacts just for the acting students, but every now and then, if something is just undeniable and in my face, I will just go ahead and say an introduction here or there. I was so honored to introduce your daughter to one of her heroes recently, which is with LaChance. Did she not tell you?
Oh my gosh. Yes. No.
Yes.
I have that video. Were you did you take it?
Yes, I was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. She shared that video of me where she was just in tears.
Oh,
and
yes, she was.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That made me so proud. Thank you for doing that.
Oh,
She
it was
posted
my
on social,
pleasure.
then I posted it.
Yeah.
She was so happy to meet
Yeah.
her.
I've known LaChance. I met LaChance. She may not even remember. She came up to me at the Equity Lounge. She was a young girl, like Nadia is now, and she had not made her mark in the business. She was brand new, and she was so gracious. And she came to say hello to me. I guess she knew that I had done Dreamgirls or what have you, but I just remember her being a young, innocent girl, and she just turned into LaChance, and she's just a beautiful soul and so very, very talented.
She really is, and so gracious and kind.
Yeah.
I just appreciated the way that she took Nadia in. The way I could see it. I've never met LaChance personally, but just seeing how she handled Nadia, and Nadia was so overwhelmed with emotion, and she was just so sweet and generous, and it was just great. And that's what we need, right? To show that to our young people, to let them see that support and that representation. It's huge for them. So I'm so grateful for that. But I hear what you mean when you say you don't want to use up all your contacts on your students, because it could easily happen, right? They've got so many great questions, and you want to call people all the time, but it's like, well, I take in what you're saying. Like, this is the time for you to focus, to buckle down, and to really hone your craft. Okay. The contacts, the opportunities will be there in the real world, but you need to get your skills together. And
absolutely. And they need to exactly what you just said. And I'm constantly writing letters of recommendation, though. That's a constant. Yeah. And that's just like what goes around comes around, because when I came out of grad school, I needed letters of recommendation, and the department head, God rest her soul, her name was Sarah Schlesinger. She was the head of the graduate musical theater writing program at Tisch. And I remember just feeling like, oh, I got to ask Sarah to write me a letter. She wrote that letter for me so quick, and then wrote another one. And I was like, oh, wow. So that's that. So whenever people ask me to write letters of recommendation, I was just like, what? And I can tell when they need it too. Professor, I'm going to apply for something. Do you need a letter? Do you need a rec letter? Yeah. Okay. Happy to do it. Just send me the who, what, where, when.
Right. That's all the thing, right? Is that you can tell the ones that understand how it works, because they're like, I'll send you what you need, as opposed to, can you write me a letter? And then you're like, about what? What do you want me to say? Like, what is this for? So that's so great. They're fortunate to have you.
That's a way of giving back. Constantly doing that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. So At this stage in your career, what are you most protective of artistically?
Wow. Well, I'm when I read that question, that when you sent me the questions, I didn't even think about that, because I knew that I could just answer it, but right now in this moment, I think that I've always, because I've got some horror stories about people using my work. I've had to sue some people. I've been in court over some intellectual property. So
Wow.
I'm very careful and protective about intellectual property, because you have to be. You have to, trademark things. You have to clearly copyright things. You have to protect things, discourage people from borrowing your work. You got to have a great lawyer, which I have, and accountants. And you have to, you have to protect your territory. So I'm not sure if that's how you meant the question, but I'm most protective. Yeah, I'm most
It is.
protective of intellectual property.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people live and die and not have a trace of their legacy other than, say, they're being known by, say, having done a show or something. But a lot of people who have created shows, they wouldn't have the libretto to share. They wouldn't have the orchestra to share. And so I've tried to just to keep track of things, but also it's a reflection of the time we're living in, because it's a time where you can actually digitize things and make sure you have this and that and all those materials. But yeah, lawyers, accountants, cross your T's, dot your I's, protect your work.
Yeah, that business part of it. That's exactly what the question was, because I was very curious, are there aspects of your life, your work, yourself, whatever it is that you're most protective of, and that seems to be most certainly in the forefront. And so now what I'd like to do is I'd like to name some things, and I'd like for you to tell me what each thing has taught you. So that'll be our word association game.
Okay.
All right. I'll start with Dreamgirls.
Dreamgirls taught me to want to learn to craft storytelling, or learn to be a craftsman or craftsperson as a storyteller.
Okay. The Funkin' Teen Rapture.
Has taught me that when I am inspired, that I can write music that is compelling. I can write lyrics that are compelling, and I can write a compelling libretto, that I can wear all three hats if I am truly, truly inspired and have the isolated time to do so.
From my hometown.
Collaboration is a really great gift, and honoring the people that you make promises to is the most important thing you can do. And if the industry says no, you have to say yes yourself and keep saying yes until you get it to where you want it to be.
Ella, First Lady of Song.
Ella. What have I learned from Ella? I've learned that Ella was the show that I took the most hits in the press because I wasn't in control of my own work. I was collaborating, but often I would write something and it wouldn't make it to the final, but the press would consider it my work. So it was Ella that made me most want to go back to school to become smarter than the people that were my critics. Ella taught me to I'm going to say this is going to get your show canceled.
What? What?
There's a woman, her name is Billie Allen, and her husband was Luther Henderson. Luther Henderson was the arranger for Ain't Misbehaving on Broadway. And Billie had done this famous show way back in the 60s called The Funny House of the Negro.
Yes, I know of that show.
Yeah, so these were two of they were married, and they were our two people that I had the pleasure of meeting at the tail ends of their careers. And so I ran it. Billy was at this theater that I was running. And she had heard that I had gone back to school. And she said, I hear you're going back to school. I said, yeah. She said, why are you going back? You already know what you're doing. And I said, well, I just wanted to go back. And she said, oh, you wanted to get your white folks papers, huh?
Not the white folks papers. That's a new one. Sometimes we say you get the freedom papers, but okay.
Yeah, that's what she said. And but in a way, so with Ella taught me to make sure I had my papers, that I had my degrees and my understanding of dramaturgy, so that when the critics came for me, that I would be able to know more than they knew.
Yeah, I mean, that's real though, right? We always, as Black folks, are endeavoring to navigate white spaces, spaces that were not made for us, spaces that are hostile to us.
Yeah.
And yet, for whatever reason, I can't tell you why, we just keep showing up saying, you know what? You're going to see me. You're going to hear me. Yeah. I belong here. You don't get to tell me I don't get to be here. So I love that you decided, even though you had, to her point, like, you know what you're doing, but you said, yes, but in that particular area, I want to have the credentials to be able to defend myself.
Yes. Because one critic had called me, some little guy from Dreamgirls wrote the book. And that was one of those things. That was one of the ones that I hadn't forgotten about. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so demeaning. You said, okay. You said, all right. I got you.
I got you. I hear you.
I got you.
I see who you are. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's what I learned from Ella.
Okay. Obama drama.
Wow. Obama drama is a short play, and it was inspired. I know you didn't ask this, but it was inspired the day that Barack Obama endorsed gay marriage. And I was just so proud of what he had endorsed. And it was in the daytime. And I remember having a little beer that I was still drinking then. And I had to go to the bank, and I got on a New York City bus going across for Harlem, 125th Street. And some drunk person was just gay bashing like a crazy person on that bus, saying the most horrible things about gay people just because what Obama had done. And I confronted him. And everybody, I just remember, those saloon scenes where everybody clears the saloon because they think two people are about to fight?
Yeah.
That happened on a New York City bus.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Now, we didn't fight. And, but at the same time, I sort of stood up based on the fact of what had happened historically that day. So that's a short play about that situation, about, because Obama had done something historic, I had drama on a bus. And so what did I learn from it? I learned that was a moment, actually, I have to say, that was a moment of courage, because I remember, I had sunglasses on, and I was reading the Poetics, Aristotle's Poetics, because I was in my undergrad. Okay. And I remember taking off those glasses and looking up at that person as they were saying the most vile things to me, and just getting myself ready to go toe to toe. And so it wasn't like I was fighting for me. I was fighting for what had happened that day.
I love that. So powerful. And as an artist, as artists do, you said, I need to write a play about this.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's got to exist. And now it exists.
Yeah. I got to get it out of me and let it, then, so I don't have to go around telling that story over and over again. Yeah.
But the historic aspect of it, it's interesting because a lot of people want to talk about things in this abstract way as if they didn't have real impact on people's everyday lives. And I love the way you created an opportunity to tell the story about how these kinds of iconic not rulings, but iconic moments and choices that this great president made. This is how it played out in the world. In this case, on this bus, around these human beings who are reacting and responding to these things. They're not just happening in a vacuum. And it's a beautiful. To me, I just see theater as many things, but as such a great teaching tool for people to really take a moment to understand the impacts of things in our lives. So I love that you wrote that.
But I would offer one little caveat.
What's that?
That is, as we all know in New York City, you never know when you're engaging crazy. So it's always best to walk away.
That's true.
So I had that talk with myself afterwards. I was like, Lee, come on.
Why did you engage? That was the day. You know how they say, you got the right one or the right day or the wrong one. Like you had the right one on the right day.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I always say, always better to walk away in New York City. You never know.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay. So last one, the Adelco Awards. What did you learn? Mm-hmm. And you can it doesn't have to be a particular, there's sort of an ongoing thing. You've won, but it can be whatever you want to say about that. I don't want to restrict you.
It's awards. People of color. First of all, the Adelcos were built for people of color who are not being acknowledged, say, in the mainstream with the Tony Awards. It's a celebration of Black excellence. And I've known about the Adelcos since forever, and from my hometown was nominated for 5 of 8 of them. And I've had other nominations. However, by the time that I was asked to do on Kentucky Avenue, this is in 2018, and it came in, they asked me, my friend Ty, who did From My Hometown with me, asked me to come and be a part of it. And I said, what am I doing? I showed up and he said, you're going to be the comedian. And I was like, the comedian, you got jokes for me? He said, no, you're going to write them. Because I'd done From My Hometown with him. Long story short, we do the show. Maybe it started like in 2015. By the time 2018 rolls around, I'm now the director of the show. I'm still playing the comedian. And I've reconfigured the show completely, and the Adelco people come in. And do you know the name Woody King?
Yes.
He is a giant.
Junior?
Woody King Jr. Yes.
Okay, yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Woody King is a hero of mine. He was my mentor who passed away from AIDS. He was his mentor. And Woody came to see the show, and he pulled me to the side, and he said to me, this is a quote, "You directed the shit out of that motherfucker." So
I love it.
I knew I was on the right track with that. And he came in on the day with the Adelco people. So that night when we were nominated for I think 10 of them, and they seat you on down right sometimes at the Adelcos. I think that if you're down right at the ceremony, you probably know something might happen kind of cool for you. We won practically every category, and I won Best Director of a Musical. I'm one of the writers, so we all won with the Best Musical under that umbrella. But most importantly, my Adam Wade, who was the first Black man to have a game show on television. It was his idea, that show, and his wife is Jerry Wade, and they're my friends. And since then, Adam has passed away, and I love them so much, and this was their baby. And the fact that by them, Adam stepping down and Maya taking on the directing it, and for it to be celebrated like it was, I mean, it was a sweep. So what did I learn from the Adelcos that year was, wow, it feels so good to serve and to help some people who have saw something in me and trusted me with their work and their icons themselves. But I get a chance to be trusted, and look what happened when they trusted me. It has won every award tonight. That was really, really a great feeling. And then 2 years later, I invite the Adelcos to see Ella when we're working on it, sort of out of town, Long Island. They come out there. I have no expectations, none whatsoever. And the exact same thing happened in 2022. We're sitting down right. They called our names so many times that it was just and they were running out of time. At one point, I just ran up and said, thank you, because it was a lot, but I won Best Director again. So that was, the Adelcos have been, if I ever won a Tony Award, the first people I'm going to thank are the Adelcos. Because they are the ones that have helped to sustain black artists in the theater in New York City for decades. LaChance just won one 2 or 3 weeks ago. They support black theater, and they keep us going. Here's the cliche: they are the wind beneath our wings.
Oh, I love that. And it's important, right? It's so needed that we are supportive of each other and recognize each other. Again, being in this industry that's hostile towards us, and that sometimes people on the outside will go, okay, well, I see all these people up there. What's the problem? People's kind of myopic view of this. And it's like, yeah, you see what's shown to you, but you don't see, again, like you talked about, all of the no's that can sit against the small number of yeses that look like a lot, but it's like, yeah, to every yes, there's 100 no's. So, and just what that can do to a person, and the level of the amount of grit and tenacity that you have to be able to continue to encounter that people just couldn't even imagine.
You have to be a little crazy to be in this,
I do.
We're both crazy sitting here, but you have to, there has to be a little something that's different about you that makes you really, really want this life. And so it doesn't feel like you're enduring as much as you're just doing what it is that you feel you're meant to do. Yeah.
It's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it. Okay, so my final question for you.
By the way, you're really great at this.
Oh, thanks.
You are really great at this. You've done your research. You're just so easy to talk to.
Thank you.
You should go national.
Okay, look, we should talk.
Okay. I wish I had the contacts to make that happen.
I'm like, come on now. You are very, I'm joking, but you are very, very kind to say that. I have to say, I love to do this, and I love that part of it, doing the research. Even people who I've already known for a while, when I do the research, I discover so many things about them, and I'm always curious to ask questions that maybe you haven't been asked before, get you to think of things in a little bit of a different way, and kind of touch different parts of your mind. So I'm honored that you feel that way.
And you have definitely done that. You've asked me questions I've never been asked before. So
thank you.
Beautiful. Well done.
Thank you. I'll continue to shape that. I mean, this is sort of in that same vein. I want to know what you're excited about these days as an artist. A lot of times people are like, oh, what's next for you? And I'm like, well, there's not always necessarily a project that's right on the horizon. I know you have one that you're working on, but sometimes an artist is excited about something else. You might be excited about an upcoming vacation that you have because you actually get to rest and recharge. So I'd like to ask, what are you excited about right now?
Well, in my case, it is something to do with art and the work. I am excited about the Funkantine Rapture, and I'm excited to close those deals on from my hometown. Just so it's almost like kids going off to college, just to put that one up and put that one up, and then you can say you did that. And so I'm excited about particularly Funkantine Rapture because that's the one that we want to bring to Broadway.
That's exciting. I really, really, really wish the best for you in that. I really want to see that go to Broadway. I want to go see the show and enjoy the show. And I also hope that I can see from my hometown, maybe in Buffalo sometime. I'm going to be pushing it, as a theater practitioner, just saying, hey, we need to get this show here, and just thinking about what are the ways that I can contribute to continuing your work here. So,
Thank you so much.
Of course. Yes. So is there anything else that you want to say to the listeners? My listeners include practitioners for sure, but also just people who like to listen to my interesting conversations, and folks are all over the world listening to our conversations in dozens of countries across the land and all the continents. So is there anything else you want to say to folks out there?
Well, before you said all that, I might have said something, but now I'm scared. No. All I can say is, keep on loving, find your joy, stay away from toxic energy when you can, and remember that life is not a rehearsal. To do it now.
That's it right there. Lee Summers, everybody. So grateful to have you on KeyBard. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Continued success to you, okay?
Thank you.
Give Nadia my love.
I will. All righty. Keyboard is produced, directed, and hosted by Tembi Duncan. Theme music produced by Psycho Sid. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow, leave a review, or give us a 5-star rating. Your support helps the show reach more listeners, and it means the world to me. Thank you for listening.